Chapter 7. Radical Acceptance as a Cure. Surrender to your divine nature. Radical acceptance allows us to stop suffering from what we cannot control. Tara Brach. When David's legs gave out on a hiking trail he'd conquered dozens of times before, he chalked it up to fatigue. Maybe he hadn't slept well. Maybe he needed to hydrate. But within weeks, his world began to unravel. A diagnosis of a chronic neurological condition struck with brutal clarity. The man who once ran marathons, scaled cliffs, and thrived on his physical strength now struggled to button his shirt or lift a cup of coffee. At first, he fought it with everything he had. He chased second opinions, devoured articles on experimental treatments, and filled his days with appointments and late-night research. Every morning he woke up hoping he'd somehow outrun the truth. But he hadn't, and the more he resisted, the more fractured he became. The turning point came on a grey, unremarkable morning. He spilled his coffee trying to pour it, and as the hot liquid spread across the counter and onto the floor, something inside him cracked. His composure shattered. He dropped to his knees, chest tight, hands trembling, and finally let the weight fall. He didn't cry for pity or comfort. He cried because every illusion of control had finally been stripped away. The quiet power of radical acceptance set in, and he could finally see clearly. He needed to get out of his own way in order to heal himself, rather than waiting for medical doctors to treat him with just pills. He needed to get to the root of this debilitating dis-ease. He was ready to seek alternatives of a more holistic nature. He started walking barefoot on hiking trails, and although he was much slower than before, the earth was beneath his feet. He began making juices from celery, lemon, carrots, kale, apples and ginger. Although he always complained about these practices being boring or not for him, his choice to accept the things he'd been rejecting ultimately led him to authentic, holistic healing. From that day forward, David stopped chasing the past. He began building a life around who he was now, not who he used to be. He found new ways to express himself, connect with others, and experience meaning. The pain didn't vanish, but it softened and became more manageable. The battle within him ended, and in its place grew a deep and steady peace. This is what radical acceptance looks like, not giving up, but choosing to honour your truth, even when it goes against your inherent program that has been ingrained from years past. Radical acceptance stops the excuse loop and forces you to break into pure, authentic living, unapologetically. The healing power of radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is the gentle art of meeting life exactly as it is, authentically with all its beauty, its messiness, and its contradictions. It's the soft but steady release of resistance, the moment we stop fighting what we cannot change and begin to embrace both the world and ourselves with open arms. Soonsick, 2021. This practice does not mean giving up or resigning ourselves to defeat. On the contrary, it's an empowered, conscious choice to align with reality instead of constantly battling it. It's the recognition that although life may not unfold as we imagined, it still holds meaning, depth and undeniable worth. In a world that urges us to strive, fix and perfect, radical acceptance invites us to let go and surrender. It asks us to stop measuring our value by our productivity or perfection and to start seeing ourselves as already whole. It's the quiet revolution of loving ourselves without conditions. When we begin to accept ourselves, our wounds, our imperfections, our humanity, we begin to heal. We loosen the grip of shame, self-criticism and comparison. In their place, we plant seeds of compassion, tenderness, and truth. Letting go of the masks. Radical acceptance is not the end of the journey. It's the beginning of living more fully, more honestly, and more peacefully within our own skin. When we stop waging war against the parts of ourselves we once rejected, we create space for something deeply transformative to emerge into wholeness. This wholeness is not about becoming perfect, but about becoming authentic. We begin to let go of the masks we've worn to be accepted, the roles we've played to feel worthy, and the stories we've carried about who we should be. In their place, we uncover something far more meaningful, our true self, who is authentic, quiet, and steady beneath the noise. Radical acceptance opens the door to a life rooted not in performance, but in presence. It allows us to show up as we are, to speak our truth without fear, and to form connections that are based on honesty rather than approval. In accepting ourselves, we also learn to accept others with greater kindness and understanding. We surrender, not just toward our own imperfections, but toward the shared humanity in everyone around us. From this place, life feels less like something to control and more like something to honour. Radical acceptance isn't just a practice. It's a return to ourselves, back to what matters, back to love and pure authenticity. Acceptance versus resignation. It's important to distinguish radical acceptance from resignation or complacency. Resignation implies a sense of defeat, a giving up on something because we believe it's beyond our power or too difficult to change. It often involves a subtle bitterness, a surrender that feels like giving in to the worst circumstances. On the other hand, radical acceptance involves a much more empowering approach. It is the realization that there are things we cannot change, and instead of lamenting them, we embrace them. We accept what is, while simultaneously making empowered choices about how we respond. Acceptance does not mean we stop striving for improvement or growth. Rather, it's about recognizing that the first step to real change is to accept where we are in the present moment. This concept applies not only to external circumstances, but also to how we perceive ourselves. We often find ourselves caught in the cycle of self-criticism and striving for an ideal version of ourselves. Radical acceptance invites us to look at ourselves with unconditional compassion. We begin to embrace our flaws, imperfections, and limitations as parts of the unique human experience. Self-love becomes a radical act of rebellion against societal norms that tell us we are not enough. Fully embracing who you are. When we practice radical acceptance, we open the door to profound healing. There is power in accepting ourselves without conditions, for it allows us to release the emotional burdens of shame, guilt, and self-judgment. We no longer need to hide parts of ourselves we deem unworthy or flawed. This acceptance is not about fixing or changing ourselves, but about fully embracing our present state, knowing that healing can only begin when we honour who we are right now. Healing comes when we stop pretending to be something we're not and start accepting the entirety of our being. It's about feeling worthy despite our imperfections and acknowledging that we are enough exactly as we are. This shift can be a deeply transformative experience that allows for profound emotional and spiritual growth, because in acceptance, we find freedom. Surrender to your divine nature. In spiritual terms, surrender is often misunderstood. Many people believe surrendering means giving up, throwing in the towel, or resigning to a fate they cannot change. But in the context of spiritual growth and healing, surrender is far from passive. It's an active choice to release the need to control outcomes and instead trust the flow of life. Surrender does not mean abandoning our desires, dreams, or intentions. It simply means releasing the tight grip we have on how we think things should unfold. Surrender is the acknowledgement that we are not in complete control, but that there is a greater force, a divine energy guiding us through life's journey. Understanding surrender in the context of spirituality and healing. When we choose to surrender, we align ourselves with the divine flow of life. We let go of resistance, trust the process, and embrace the uncertainty that comes with living. Surrender is not about helplessness or weakness. Rather, it's an act of profound trust in the universe, in the divine timing, and in the knowing that everything is unfolding as it should. In the realm of spiritual healing, surrender allows us to release our attachment to outcomes. Whether it's the healing of a physical ailment, the resolution of emotional pain, or the pursuit of a life goal, surrender helps us cultivate patience and trust that things will come to fruition when the time is right. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. Surrender is about releasing the need for forceful control over every aspect of our existence. It's about letting go of the limiting belief that we have to have everything figured out. By surrendering, we stop fighting against life, and we begin to flow with it. When we surrender, we're not giving up on our desires or goals. Instead, we're opening ourselves up to the possibility that life may have a greater plan for us than we could ever imagine. Sometimes, this plan may not look exactly how we expected, but by trusting the process, we can find joy in the unexpected and the unknown. The importance of trusting the divine timing of your life's journey. Trusting the divine timing of your life's journey is a crucial aspect of surrender. So often, we want things to happen on our own timeline, and when they don't, we experience frustration, doubt, and anxiety. However, when we release our expectations and trust that everything is unfolding in its own perfect time, we allow space for peace, ease, and acceptance. Divine timing is not a concept rooted in logic or human reasoning. It's a matter of faith. It's the understanding that there is a divine order to life and that everything happens for a reason at exactly the right time. By trusting this flow, we surrender the need to manipulate the process and allow ourselves to be guided toward our highest good. Practical exercise. A guided surrender meditation. 1. Find a quiet space where you can sit or lie down comfortably. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in, filling your lungs completely. Then exhale slowly, releasing all tension. 2. With each breath, allow your body to relax. Feel your muscles loosen, your thoughts slow, and your heart settle into a peaceful rhythm. 3. Now, imagine yourself standing at the edge of a river. This river represents the flow of life. The water is calm, clear, and inviting. In this moment, you are called to surrender. Imagine yourself stepping into the river, allowing the gentle current to carry you. 4. As you float in the river, let go of any tension or resistance. Allow the water to support you, to carry you where you need to go. Trust that you are safe. Trust that the river knows exactly where it's taking you. 5. Release any worries, doubts, or fears. Let them flow away with the current. Feel the weight lifting off your shoulders as you allow yourself to simply be. Stay in this space for a few minutes, simply floating and trusting the flow of life. When you're ready, gently bring your awareness back to the present moment, carrying with you the feeling of surrender and trust. The power of trusting yourself. As you emerge from the river of surrender, a quiet truth begins to settle within you. Learning to trust yourself is not just important, it is essential to reclaiming your authenticity. Trusting yourself means believing in your own inner wisdom, even when the world around you feels uncertain. It's the quiet voice inside that says, "I know what I need." It is the courage to honour your feelings, your boundaries, and your truth without needing external validation. So often, we've been taught to second-guess ourselves, to look outward for approval, to suppress our intuition in favour of logic, conformity or fear. But the journey home to your authentic self requires something different. It asks you to turn inward, to remember that you are already whole, that the answers you seek have always lived within you. When you trust yourself, you stop abandoning who you are to become who others expect you to be. You begin to speak more freely, choose more wisely, and live more fully. Your decisions come from alignment, not anxiety, and your life begins to reflect the quiet, unwavering strength of a soul that knows its worth. Trusting yourself doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. It means you'll stop treating them as proof that you're broken. Instead, you'll see them as part of your unfolding, your becoming, your remembering. This trust is the foundation. From it, authenticity blooms. Reflection exercise. Areas of resistance and control. Take a few moments to reflect on the areas of your life where you've resisted acceptance or tried to control outcomes. Write them down in your journal. These might be experiences, relationships, or even personal traits that you have struggled to embrace. What is the source of your resistance? What fears or beliefs are you holding on to that prevent you from fully accepting these parts of your life? What would it feel like to surrender control and trust that life is unfolding perfectly? In what ways can you start practicing radical acceptance in these areas of your life? Use this exercise to help identify where you are holding on too tightly and where you might begin to loosen your grip, allowing for healing, growth, and divine flow. As you move forward, remember that surrender is a continual process, one that brings you closer to the peace and divine alignment you deserve. You will find it when you reclaim your authenticity. But to truly live from that place of authenticity, you must also be willing to let your heart soften. The next step in this journey invites you to explore vulnerability, not as a weakness, but as the doorway to real connection with yourself. In vulnerability, your truest self begins to rise. Let's walk gently into that space together.